Well, Ulysses, after an off day, the Rays look to continue their winning ways against a team that's a tad better than the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that is the Milwaukee Brewers.
Same division. They are heading that NL Central, but again, it must be nice to be playing against, the Reds, the Pirates, and the Cubs. So good for the Brewers. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulysses Zambrano.
And we're the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Rays your very first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Be sure to make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com, and Locked On Sports listeners will get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement as well. So use code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, at checkout. All right, the Tampa Bay Rays continue against teams in the NL Central. This time, a two-game set against the Milwaukee Brewers, who are first in the Central with a 42-33 record. I'll be curious to see who wins that division, whether it will be it's definitely 100% going to be between the Brewers and Cardinals. The Pirates, the Cubs, and the Reds don't have a shot in hell. So I'll be curious to see who is the last man standing, whether it is the Brewers or the Cardinals. I know the Brewers are getting back Brandon Woodruff. I don't know about some of their other injured players as of right now, but all intents and purposes, the Brewers, really solid team, and the Rays, certainly, just like with any other team in the majors, they definitely can't overlook the Brew Crew.
Tell me if you've heard this one before. Tremendous pitching, lack of offense. That's two teams that are going to be facing each other this week in that odd 2-game series too.
Yeah.
Because, I was expecting a 3-gamer. It's only 2 games that we'll see friends like Ozzie Timmons, the Brewers hitting coach, and Willy Adames back at the Trop. But it's an odd 2-gamer. I'm going for 8 though. I'm going for 8-0. And for all of you saying, what, 8-0? What are you talking about? Well, they swept the Cardinals. The Rays did. Right. They swept the Pirates. They're 6-0 against the NL Central so far. I want the 8. It's a 2-gamer. I know it's a lot to take, but I really wanted, Kevin. What
did they do against the Cubs? I don't remember that because they played the Cubs, didn't they?
Oh, they did play the Cubs. You're right. In that Chicago road trip, very good memory. I think they went 2-1? Yes.
Okay. Regardless, they should have a very good record against NL Central teams.
Dang, I forgot about that Cubby series. Yeah, it was cold, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it was.
So they went 2-1. So what? So they're 8-1 against the NL Central. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like I said this last week, and I got a couple of DMs saying like, "Hey, you shouldn't talk about the NL Central that way." Like, well,
Are you serious?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
But
I wish I had that kind of free time where I could just DM about a podcast talking crap about the NL Central. That would be
NL Central. Lovely. Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. It's 8-1. Okay. We already have 8. Let's get to 10. Let's get to double digits. All right. But it's gonna be a tough team to square up the ball against. I mean, this is a team that is nasty. The pitching staff is nasty. They're second in all MLB with strikeouts, and we know that the Rays sometimes chase a little bit too often and at times unnecessarily. So that's going to be the case. I don't see a starter for the second game being announced, but like you said, Brandon Woodruff is the guy who is announced for the Tuesday start, and he might be the most gettable guy in that pitching staff. He's got a 4.74 ERA. 124 WHIP
too.
Just comes out of injury. So let's hope that he's the most gettable guy. You start with a win, and then you go for the odd 2-game sweeper.
Yeah, it's interesting with the Brewers. They're 13th in baseball in OPS, so middle of the pack, but they're tied for third in homers behind the Yankees and the Braves, but tied with the Astros. And we're a little home
Park
run
factors. Park factors. That park factors. Brewers.
Okay, Willy Adames has 15. Hunter Renfroe has 13. Rowdy Tellez has 13. Tyrone Taylor has 9. Christian Yelich has 7, and 4 other players have 6. What happened to Christian Yelich, by the way? He has fallen off the face of the earth. The last 3 seasons. I guess that
so unfortunate, man.
That he had. Again, it just goes to show you, maybe, who knows, maybe he turns it around, but he's batted under 250. Not saying batting average is the end-all, be-all, but this was a guy that was giving you a 330 batting average with 40 home runs and 30 stolen bases and 100 RBIs and, basically giving you MVP-level numbers consistently for multiple years in a row, and he's basically just been about a little bit above average over the last 3 seasons. So you might have that small window where you're really good and then things fall apart a little bit, or at least for a couple years, like Cody Bellinger, for example.
Well, also the contract too. I mean, you're so good, you're MVP, that a small market team or I guess small revenue, whatever you want to call it, or they give him the big 200+ mil contract to Yelich, and then he kind of, you're right, has been about average. I wouldn't even say above. I would about average, like 102, 103 WRC plus, like that's about average. And it's a shame because he was so good, and it was so good to see a guy with his talent, making it to MVP type level. But that's what happens sometimes. Sometimes you have 2-3 really good seasons. He had them, and he capitalized on the money. Hopefully he gets back to being that type of player, because I think baseball needs more guys like that to be more in the discussion of MVP. So it's not only the same 3-4 guys that always get the spotlight and the MVP type honors, but especially from a team like the Brewers. Like, I don't have anything against the Brewers. In fact, I like them. I want
MVP level players are on quote unquote small market, small revenue teams, as opposed to them being on the Cubs,
Aaron Judge, Yankees. You gotta have a little bit of flavor there with the markets. But yeah, man, it's you're right. It's been kind of a weird steep decline for Yelich. So hopefully the decline stays for the next 2 games.
Yes.
Maybe he doesn't like the Trop, although he has been at the Trop because he was in Miami Marlins. So he's used to it. Yeah.
Pitching wise, the Brewers are 10th in all of baseball in team ERA at 3.76. And I'll always like to bring this up is the defensive numbers. Take them for what you will, but they are tied for 4th in baseball in defensive runs saved, with the Orioles and the Mariners. The Yankees, the Guardians, and the Astros are ahead of them. However, they are 22nd in the outs above average metric. So there's got to be some brawls going on between defensive runs saved and outs above average. Something has to be figured out, or you just take the average of both of them. You take the mean or whatever. I don't know. But I guess statistically, Hunter Renfroe has continued to be a stalwart defensively, as has Jace Peterson. But again, you look around the team, you look at their offense, you look at their pitching staff, you look at their defense, and you can see why. And you look at that division, you can see why the Brewers, solid team. I don't think they're going to win the World Series or anything like that, but they're absolutely, as of today, going to make the playoffs. And again, the Rays, even at home, they can't overlook a team like the Brewers, but it's also an opportunity to, the Brewers are a team like the Pirates. They don't visit the Trop very often. So that can really, really disrupt the opposition. A National League team like that is not used to the dimensions, the lights, it takes a little bit longer to get a good jump or to see the baseball, and ball bounces in front of you. Wow, that ball really bounced high off the turf. I wasn't expecting that, and it goes over your head. So we've seen it time and time again where a National League team comes in and it looks like the bad news bears out there because they're at the Trop as opposed to an outdoor ballpark or a more traditional ballpark somewhere.
Yeah, that's why park factors matters, man. I mean, that gives you an advantage, and you need to know how to play in your ballpark, right? Very well. You're going to play 81 games there, and then you can get a little bit of an edge when teams like the Brewers, who never go there, are used to it. So again, Yelich has been there. Hunter Renfroe has been there. Willy Adames has been there. So they might be a little bit more used to than other teams, unfortunately, for the Rays, because you do want the fresh eyes. And when you talk about defensive metrics, they are good defensively. And again, Willy Adames is exhibit A on that. I mean, he's really not having a tremendous season. The power is definitely there. He's leading the team with 15 bombs for the Brewers. But the war is coming from his defensive metrics. I mean, I think he's at a 1.6 F4 now and 1.2 B war. So that comes a lot from obviously the pop, but the defense is really helping him this year about being an above average player.
That's a good point too, is that Willy Adames, Hunter Renfroe, Mike Brosseau, even Brad Boxberger. Actually, all those former Rays are doing pretty solid on the Brewers, thriving for that team. But they can also impart some wisdom to the rest of their teammates and say, hey, make sure you watch out for this. Keep an eye on this, because those guys have played a few games in the Trop and can levy some experience to those types of guys. So, again, it should be a fun series. The 2-game thing's a little bit wacky, but I always enjoy when the Rays aren't playing the same old teams over and over again. We get it. There's the Yankees rivalry and the Red Sox rivalry and facing the Blue Jays and the Orioles, but it is refreshing to see teams that you don't often get to see, and to see a couple reunions like Willy Adames. That'll be a fun treat as well. What's also a fun treat is BlueNile.com. And that's where you can make your moment sparkle with jewelry. Locked On Sports listeners will get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement as well. So use code LOCKEDON. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON. Plus, every order is insured, shipped free, and arrives in discreet packaging that will not give away what's inside. So shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today.
We also want to tell you about a way to save both time and money, and that's by using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you could ever need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, you name it. Even new carpet, they have that. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. And you need to go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Make sure to write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com.
We spent the bulk of Monday's show discussing Isaac Paredes, Josh Lowe, Wander Franco making his return. Neil Solondz made an appearance, not literally, but we talked about Neil Solondz for a couple minutes there. One guy that I don't want to say we overlooked, but we wanted to dedicate some time to on today's episode is Shane McClanahan. And I'm going to knock on the table for this. 2022 American League Cy Young Award, future American League Cy Young Award winner later on this season, Shane McClanahan. I'm calling it. I'm booking it. With what he's doing right now, I'm loving some Sugar Shane, and you should be too if you're a Rays fan.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to love? Again, double-digit strikeouts, 7 innings, so they give him the leash because they know he's efficient. They know that he can use 4+ pitches to get out of any sort of jam. That's nice to see. It's nice to see a long leash. Call me a boomer. I don't give a you-know-what. I like starting pitchers that go 7. I love it. I want more of that type of baseball. Again, boomer me all you want.
Well,
that's more fun than guys going 4 innings and then a bunch of bullpen. That's more fun to me. That's my opinion. Anybody else can have their opinion, but I'd rather see a James Shields type of guy go 7 deep, 8 deep. A Shane McClanahan go 7, 8 deep. That's fun.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, he has forced the Rays' hands of, I am too good to be taken out. And also on the flip side, JT Chiguah is on the shelf. Pete Fairbanks is on the shelf. JP Fireeisen is on the shelf. Nick Anderson, I know he hasn't really been a thing for a while. He's on the shelf. Luis Patino's on the shelf. Drew Rasmussen, he's on the shelf. Like, you got to get innings from somewhere. You can't keep rolling out Calvin Fauché and Ralph Garza Jr. I'm sorry. And
I guess you can when Kluber's at 63 pitches. I mean, I guess you can do it then. But yeah, Shane McClanahan has just been too good. I think he would look absurd. Kevin Cash would look absurd if at 84 pitches he takes him out. And then because Shane McClanahan right now is proving that him tired at 92 pitches is way better than every other bullpen guy. Literally every other bullpen guy, real fresh, just massaged prior to the game, stretched, 10 hours sleep. You know, he's way better at 95 pitches than that kind of guy coming in from the bullpen. And that's when we talk about that cliche, stepping up. This guy has taken stepping up this season to a whole new level. I mean, it's not only getting to that top of the rotation type of stuff and, you know, opening day starter and all that, but now being in the conversation legitimately on June 28th of being the American League Cy Young.
He's the front runner right now. Look at all the metrics. He's the front
leading ERA, leading strikeouts, which are huge for the Cy Young candidacy. Huge for the Cy Young. I think his WHIP is around 0.9.
I've got the numbers right here, and it is just amazing. Really, every category, every important category used for the Cy Young metric is what he's tops at. He's got the most innings pitched in the American League. Next up is Robbie Ray. He has the lowest ERA among starters in the American League, 1.77. The next lowest, believe it or not, I mean, what world are we living in? Martin Perez. What happened there? That's crazy. Shane leads the American League in strikeouts with 123. Next up is Dylan Cease, who has 121 and 81 innings pitched. So that's actually really Dylan Cease is a higher strikeout per 9 innings. But Shane also has the lowest WHIP in the American League. Next up is Justin Verlander, and he also has the lowest opposing batting average in the American League. Next up is Justin Verlander. And I know we don't like to harp on wins, but he is tied for third in wins in the American League. So across the board, again, if there was a midseason Cy Young, it would have to go to Shane. Who else would it go to? Quite frankly.
Yeah, no, right. Again, that makes him the front runner. No, but again, seeing that it's June 28th on the calendar, and knowing injuries can happen, and knowing that multiple times in baseball history, the Cy Young Award winner has not even gone to the All-Star game, makes me trepidatious, makes me cautious in saying, yep, it's going to him. I think it's way too early to give him that crown yet, but it's not too early to say he's not only in the podium, he's leading the podium right now. Today, as you're listening to this, Shane McClanahan is the Cy Young frontrunner for the American League. I can't see anybody else making an argument for somebody else.
Yeah, unless you're a homer for another team, like
Nestor Cortez, maybe. Some Yankee fans would go for Nestor.
Could you imagine if Tyler Glasnow was healthy? The 1-2 punch of Shane McClanahan and Tyler Glasnow. Oh my goodness.
Don't make me go into this. What if Brendan Mckay never got injured? Patino.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so proven on Brendan Mckay being a thing, but I get your point. Really, just everybody that's hurt, like it's crazy.
I think the Rays I think if you do the math, you have a whole starting rotation plus a whole bullpen on the shelf right now as the Rays. So it's definitely not being a kind year / year and a half.
That's why the Rays, when you have a guy who's pitching like Shane McClanahan, you say, okay, we're cool with you going 6 1/3, 6 2/3, 7 1/3. Like, you're the guy, you're the dude. He is too good to fall into the Rays trap of the 5 and dive thing that they're going after right now. We'll continue this discussion, but first we have to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net. It is your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. It remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season, and it's the fastest way and easiest way to check in on your favorite sports and events, including MMA, boxing, golf, baseball, and so much more. So head over to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. Well, Ulysses, the people have spoken, at least the Locked On Rays listeners. And again, maybe a little bit of a biased poll, but I still think if we put this out to all
just 30, a little biased. Just a little biased.
Yes, a little biased, but we'll discuss it anyway. Will Rays pitcher Shane McClanahan become the 2022 AL Cy Young? 80% of the voting populace on this poll, this Locked On Rays Twitter poll, say yes, and 20% say no. What do you say? Does he win it or not?
I want a third option, which says too early.
I was not going to give the third option because I didn't want I wanted hard answers, yes or no. I am on the table for yes. He's going to win it. He's going to be the third way to do it. David Price, step aside. Blake Snell, step aside. Jake McClanahan, he is on pace. Not saying he's going to keep it up, but he would have the best season among all those guys, right?
Yeah, he would. And
which metrics you look at, he might have to. I mean, he could get to 250 strikeouts. He could get to 200 innings. It would take a bit. I don't know if the Rays would push him that far, but
I think he's on pace right now for like a 182 innings, which is, I mean, start the season. You tell us, oh, by the way, by June 29th, he would be the front runner for Cy Young, and he would be on pace for 180 innings and 250 strikeouts. You would have been like, okay, get out of here. You're being a homer. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Look, again, like I said, he is definitely the front runner. June 27th, June 28th, we've seen too much baseball.
Yeah.
To just crown a guy on Midsummer. Like that's, I mean, again, so many Cy Youngs have actually missed the All-Star game. So think about that. When does All-Star voting actually end? First week of July, second week of July. Like, so you're telling me that the production, it's too tough. It's tough for me to say yes when I've seen that happen. So I'm not gonna go full throttle here, but I will say right now, if the season were to end, yes, he's the guy. And I also like this little I don't know how to say this, but this trend. David Price beat out Verlander for the 2012 Cy Young award. 2018, Blake Snell beat out, Justin Verlander for the award. And also, you've just mentioned a few metrics. And behind him, who was behind Sugar Shane? Mr. Justin Verlander. So, if you wanted a conspiracy theory on your Tuesday morning, Rays fans, this is it. This could also be kind of a trend. Like maybe every time a Rays player, a Rays lefty wins the Cy Young, it's when Justin Verlander is also having a pretty darn good season himself.
Hey, look at that. You could look at it a couple different ways that, hey, the Rays can produce and develop some good lefties, and also Justin Verlander is a unicorn. Basically, okay, you're basically a Cy Young award winner or very close in the running in 2012. Same thing in 2018 and then in 2022. Like, man, he's what, 40 years old now?
Close I mean, about 38, 39, 40. I mean, it's unreal.
Don't make him wait 5 years to get into the Hall of Fame. Just once he retires, just hey, we're putting you in here. Step aside, get your plaque. Come on.
You're an automatic. You're an automatic, and here's the entrance. By the way, only lefties have won the Cy Young, so it's I know Shields got a podium. I think in 2011, I think he got third for that Cy Young year. Shane Baz, man, look at this. If the development of Shane McClanahan took that much amount of time to get to this point, if we could have the same development for Shane Baz, who I think is more refined, as he got into his MLB debut, then Sugar Shane when he made his debut. So like maybe it's a little bit of a shorter step, development to get to where he can be. Do you imagine that 1-2 punch for 2023? Yeah. Shane and Shane. I mean, that's
and with Glass now back.
Maybe? Oh my goodness. Now that's a starting rotation that's scary for everyone to face.
Yeah, if Shane's where he's at 40 starts, it'll be interesting to see where if Shane McClanahan is where he's gotten to at 40 starts, where can Shane Baz get to at his 40th start? Just for some context here, David Price in 2012, he went 20-5 with a 2.56 ERA, 211 innings pitched, and 205 strikeouts in 31 starts. And then Blake Snell in 2018, he led the American League with a 1.89 ERA and tied for 5th with 221 strikeouts and 180 and 2/3 innings pitched. I think Shane McClanahan is going to outstrike out both these guys. Again, he may or may not win the Cy Young, but he's on pace to surpass those K numbers.
The issue would be the innings. He's on pace for 181, which is right about Blake Snell's amount. Yeah. And this is how much baseball has changed so quickly. And 180 was I don't think he's going to win it because of the lack of innings there. Corbin Burns had the same issue last year with the innings pitched. That is it enough? Yeah. So we'll see if the competition is showing the same types of numbers than Shane is with more innings pitched. That could be an issue. But again, if you're leading right now, then you're setting the barometer, and he's setting the barometer right now with the innings pitched. So it's going to be intriguing, man. It's going to be a really fun award to keep track of. I think Shane McClanahan is making a name for himself around MLB. Oh, yeah. If you think that you're into baseball and you don't know who Shane McClanahan is, then you're wasting your time. You don't really know what you're talking about. So It's nice to have a representative like this in the forefront of MLB. And let's not talk about Cy Young yet. Let's talk about all-star starter for the American League. That's the aim right now. Keep doing your thing. The ERA is very shiny, but I had forgotten how good Blake Snell's was in 2018. Yeah. You said 185?
189.
189 in 180 innings. Right now, Shane has a better one at 177, but again, 90 innings pitched. So he would have to basically do everything he has done up to this point for the rest of the season to have a better ERA than Snell. So that's a tough ask. That's a tough ask, but I see your point with the strikeouts.
And Blake Snell is also an example of, you can have that Cy Young season. That doesn't mean you're going to be Justin Verlander for the next 10, 12, 15 years.
Did you see what happened with Blake Snell?
Where he hit Bryce Harper in the thumb.
Yeah, man.
With the pitch, yeah.
That's
and I'm seeing the Phillies next week. I'm going to miss out on Harper. Bummer.
Look at that. I know. That's a bummer. Yeah. And man,
Blake.
Well, you can see Nick Castellanos and Hoskins
there's some other guys too.
Schwarber.
I mean, Shane McClanahan, I was a little bit not worried, but just wondered how he would hold up and if he would continue to put up the numbers that he has with Mike Zunino on the shelf. And he's shown that as of so far, really, it doesn't matter who's behind the plate, whether it's Mejia or Pinto. He's still going to ball out, and he's still got the 4 elite pitches. He's still going to find a way to make it work. And as long as the guy behind the plate can, at least glove the ball, then he'll be in good shape. But I mean,
I don't want to. I'm sorry. I don't want to put bad juju out there, but I would put Pinto behind the plate when Shane McClanahan is
Pinto, I think he's going to be Mike Zunino's replacement in 2023. He can frame.
He can frame real good.
Guy.
Yeah. So I've seen way too many wild pitches in air quotes. And if you didn't see the air quotes, it's because you're just listening, but you could
Yeah.
watch us on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button on YouTube. So, I've seen too many wild pitches being called when they were probably passed balls on Mejia.
Oh yeah.
Like just being honest here. So I would put Rene Pinto behind the dish when you have your AL Cy Young candidate on the mound.
But it just goes to show you that even with the defensive ineptitude of Francisco Mejia, McClanahan's still going to give you 7 innings strong and 10 strikeouts and 1 earned run and no walks. Like, that's basically, like, look at his line from like the last 6-10 starts.
It's the same one.
Yeah. And again, we know not to go much longer here, but last year Shane McClanahan, he'd walk a batter and then he would kind of fall off a little bit, give up a home run, and now he can go through a little bit of a bad stretch and get through it. And it's impressive to see his development and maturity as a ball player. And heck, who knows? Maybe he learns a 5th pitch. Maybe a cutter is coming at some point. Could you imagine? I mean, you got 4 elite ones, so that's all you need. But if he tinkers with a 5th or some sort of in between pitch, you have multiple variations of your curveball. Oh boy, it could be tough for the opposition for sure. I'm
calling for a knuckleball next. Let's go.
Yeah,
let's do it, Sugar Shane.
Just to give a shout out to a listener out there, Argenis Rashad says the Trops menu needs to at least have an ice cream or milkshake flavor named Sugar Shane. Rays need to figure something out with that. I like that. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah.
What's that? Beans and Barler? Can't they come up with something?
Yeah, let's talk to their people. Let's have our people talk to their people. Have to talk to the Rays people. How about that?
Yeah, that works.
Enter McGee.
All right.
Get into it. Yeah.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you again for making the Locked On Rays podcast your very first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Hope you all have a wonderful day and stay safe.